Do you have gas? And I don't mean like indigestion. I mean gear acquisition syndrome. This is something that happens in a lot of hobbies. As a photographer, I collected tons of gear. And as a videographer, I have even more. We have so many cameras that I could never use them all. But in brewing, do you really need all that extra stuff? Or is it just stuff? An interesting thing happens in almost any hobby, and that is you learn a little bit about it, and then you say, ooh, but if I had this, I could do this. If I had this, I could make it better. If I had this thing, everything would be solved. It does not fix your problems. Sometimes having gear is important. Sometimes it's not. Let's talk about that. So for brewing, really all you need is a fermenter, a way to measure your sugars, a hydrometer or a refractometer, because they're relatively cheap these days. Some way to move the product, like a siphon of some type that's safe, like not tubing with your mouth on it. I know some people told me they did that for years and they never had a problem. Well, you know what? You just got lucky. Sorry, it's not recommended. Don't do that, please. You also need some bottles of some kind, whether it's just another like large, reusable bottle or actual like wine bottle size bottles. You need something to store your brews in if you're going to store them. Now, if you're going to drink them right away, I still would have something to put it into just to get it off the lees, but that's a whole other conversation. So at the end of the day, you need very, very little actual gear. Now, I would say a scale of some type is probably an important thing too, and you might already have one of those. So at the bare minimum, 2 glass or plastic type fermenters, one being glass so you could store in it longer, hydrometer, auto siphon, scale, yeah. I mean, what are we talking? Less than $100. And if you find them used, all the better. Sometimes people get into brewing, they spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on the gear, and then they give it away when they realize that it's really not something that they're all that interested in. Please don't be one of those people. Don't give stuff away if you don't have to. Stay in the hobby. Keep the gear. I'm not saying don't give it away if you decide it's not for you. I'm saying don't be one of those people that spends a fortune in the beginning only to find out that this isn't for them. I'm saying spend as little as you need to get what you need to happen. Here's how cheap it can be to get started in brewing. A half gallon of Welch's grape juice, less than $5. A packet of Fleischmann's bread yeast. What is it, like $1? And then a 5-pound bag of sugar is a couple dollars, right? Now, the 5-pound bag of sugar you could probably use for other things too, because you don't need as much. This is the concept for my sweet red wine. You can basically make a half gallon of this wine for something like $6. That is minimal equipment, almost no equipment. And if you pour carefully at the end, you probably don't even need the auto siphon, but I didn't say that. Just remember, I didn't say that. You want to use an auto siphon. It's important. But when you're first starting out, just to get an idea, do I even like this thing at all? Use the minimal gear possible. And I'm totally fine with that because that way you get a taste for it. And then you decide, yeah, this is something I want to do. So maybe do it again as cheaply as possible. And then you go, all right, now I'm hooked. Nope, I got the bug now. I'm a brewer. I want to do all the things. But don't go out and spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Gear acquisition syndrome is a serious, serious affliction. I still have it. I still, to this day, look at photography videos about new cameras, new lenses, new gear, this, that, the other thing, and in my head start to think, oh, well, we're shooting on Sony now, but what if I got this one Nikon camera and a lens, but then I might need this other lens too, and then there's extra batteries, and then the chargers for those. And before you know it, I've got thousands of dollars spent in my head on a camera system that I don't need. I literally have 2 very nice last year's top of the line model cameras for photography only. I have this camera, which is a Sony FX2, not the top of the line, but it's a really good video camera. We have in the other studio for CSB an FX3. These cameras are mounted on tripods and stay where they are. They don't get used for anything else. This FX2 is only for these videos or any video that I make in this space, which so far is these videos. So that means I have 2 other cameras. And then I have an other video-centric camera by Sony that is really just for, I can take that anywhere and do videos with it. And then I have 2 older cameras, which are still great photographic tools, but they're not as good for video. And then there's the plethora of action camera, tiny little cameras. I have the Osmo Pocket 3. I have my cell phone. There's so many cameras. That's gear acquisition syndrome, not to mention lenses. I probably have 35 or 40 lenses. Now, you might say, oh, but you do this for a living, so it makes sense. Well, here's the thing. I use one lens here, one lens on the FX3 for the City Steading Brews, and not much for other stuff. So do I need all this stuff? No. Am I ever going to get rid of it? No. Same thing happens in brewing. People buy all these fermenters, they buy conicals, they buy stainless steel, they buy this, they buy that, they buy wort chillers, they buy all sorts of things. And they end up using a percentage of it. Now, some people might use all of it. Some people spend their money wisely. Other people buy everything that they think they might need because somebody told them they'll need it. And they either get disenfranchised with the hobby and quit, and then they're stuck with all the stuff, or they realize I don't really use all of it, and they end up giving it away or selling it cheaply. My preference is to keep it as simple as you can be. Now, I know many people love the gear, and to them, that's the hobby, kind of like me with photography. The gear is the hobby to me just as much as the photography itself. So if you are one of those people, then this video isn't for you. I'm just going to be totally honest. This video is for people who are trying to not have gas, trying not to buy all the gear, trying really hard to be thrifty and spend as little as possible. We have been using the same kind of autosiphons for years, over a decade. We buy new ones when they wear out, but it's the same kind of thing. We did recently switch to a different kind of hydrometer, but we still use hydrometers that are less than $20 to get a new hydrometer. We still have plastic buckets that we bought a decade ago that we're still using. We still have swing top bottles that we got 15 years ago that we're still using to hold brews in. We have so many fermenters that we've had for many, many years. Some of them were literally the free juice, and you paid for the fermenter from Publix. It was a 1 gallon of apple juice. Basically, I figure you get the juice for free for a 1 gallon fermenter. And it was like, literally at that time, I think it was like $10 or $12. I don't think you can even get those anymore. But stuff like that, we are still using to this day, years later. Some of the fermenters that you saw in the very first videos on the City Steading Brews channel are still the ones that we're using today. And you know what? They work just as well as they did then. There's no difference. So the idea that you got to upgrade to stainless steel, well, is it an upgrade or is it just a change? It's a change. Now, I know people that swear by their stainless steel conical fermenters, and that's great. If that makes you happy, then that's the way you should do it. I'm saying it's not 100% necessary. They have like the collector at the bottom, like a mason jar or something like that. And somebody told me that they love theirs just recently, and that it has the mason jar at the bottom, so it collects everything. Well, we've made a couple brews recently that, guess what? That wouldn't have helped. They have so much lees that you'd still be pulling solid gunk out of the faucet, the spigot right there. So there's no one size fits all, but there's one size fits most. I find plastic buckets for fermenting in are a one size fits most for primary fermentation. Glass containers for conditioning phase, or what we call conditioning phase. Some people call it secondary fermentation. They work great for that. And I'm starting to do this thing where I use an S-type airlock for primary and a 3-piece airlock for conditioning. At least we're trying to do that because I really like the S-type airlock. Not a huge fan of the 3-piece. So in conditioning phase, there's a lot less activity. Therefore, the airlock doesn't really matter. So I like to use the S-type here. So that is kind of another way to keep things relatively inexpensive. A lot of fermenters come with an airlock, so we just reuse them and use them over and over again. They're not a big deal. They're, not super expensive. But the idea that you have to constantly upgrade your fermenters is kind of a little silly. If it works, it works. Because here's a little secret about this. A plastic bucket versus a glass fermenter versus a stainless steel conical. All three of them are going to produce the exact same alcoholic beverage. I'm sorry, they just are. There's going to be no difference. At best, if you really wanted to get super minusculely anal about it, the plastic, if left too long, you might pick up just the slightest hint of plastic. But I've really never experienced that myself in all the years of doing this and leaving stuff in buckets for a couple of months or 2 or 3 or 4. Never experienced that. So I'm going to call kind of BS on that. I don't really think it's going to happen. Now, if you left it for years in a bucket, yeah, it's possible. And then when it comes to like measuring equipment, a Pretty simple acrylic style graduated cylinder and a $15 hydrometer. I don't care if it's made in China. I don't care if it's made in Mexico. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't even matter how accurate it is, as long as you use the same one all the time. Because all you need to do is have a beginning and an ending. And if that ending doesn't change and it's within the realm of normality for your brew, it's done. So accuracy kind of goes out the window. And do not ever for a minute think that using one type of equipment over another for homebrew is accurate, because the only way to be truly accurate is to send it off to a lab. There is no way that a hydrometer that has increments of 0.002 lines that you have to read and see where the meniscus is exactly to find out exactly what it is, that you have to take multiple readings of in order to calculate an ABV, that the calculation for ABV already is an estimate because it's not a sliding scale. It kind of goes like this. The more alcohol there is, the more it changes. That's why we used to use 135 as the coefficient for the equation, but now we use 131.25 because more people asked us why we use 135 and how wrong we were about using 135. So it's all an estimation, which means just get a hydrometer. It doesn't even matter. Best, lowest cost doesn't even make a damn bit of difference at all. Let me put a caveat on that. As long as it's consistent. If you can put it in the same liquid and it gives the same reading all the time, then it's fine. If the little balls are broken off or things like that, then yeah, it's probably not the best option. And when it comes to storing your brews when they're done, I mean, first, get an auto siphon. Please just use an auto siphon. It's the simplest way. If you absolutely cannot afford an auto siphon, or you're, just right in the beginning and you want to start, I'm going to regret saying this, but I have poured many a beverage into the bottles and been fine. You risk oxidation. I will just say that you are risking oxidation. If it is something that you know is going to be drank within the next month or so, it probably doesn't matter because oxidation takes months for it to really take hold and make a change. So not as big of a deal. But when it comes to storage, the bottles, all you really want is something that's airtight. Now, if you're storing something carbonated, you want something that can hold pressure. But our swing top bottles that we love, that we've been using for years, they don't really hold the carbonation as much. Probably could replace the seals and be fine. And, we probably should just replace the seals. Those bottles themselves, though, are so solidly constructed. The springs and everything for the swing tops are fantastic. And they are Aldi lemonade bottles. Literally, they were a seasonal product. When we first started buying them, they were like $1.50 a piece. Those bottles alone sell on eBay for like $30 each. The actual same bottle, literally the same bottle, without the lemonade. So in our case, we were getting free lemonade and $1.50 for a swing top bottle. That here we are 10 years later, still using them. We have like 30 of them or so. They're fantastic. I would get more. They're just that kind of good. The other thing is reusing bottles. Now, if you buy like wine or things like that come with a screw top, those are totally reusable. Okay. They may not be the best for long-term storage, but I mean, a year or two, you're probably fine. Corks, however, this is where it gets a little dicey. If you replace the cork in a corked bottle, you're probably good, but reusing the cork that it came with, probably not the best way to go. Sometimes we've had mold issues with those and other things because they just don't store well when they're dry and they get crumbly. And yeah, for reuse, I wouldn't go with cork. But if you buy a new bottle, and new corks, that's totally fine. Then it's totally good. We tend to really like the screw tops. We've been getting them from North Mountain Supply, and that's not a plug for them. It's just those particular bottles are really great. They have a little bit of a seal on the inside, so when you screw it down, it holds. And we've had multiple reuses of those with zero problems whatsoever. They work really well. Another thing that we're really starting to appreciate is using a bottle capper. Now, they make butterfly bottle cappers that are thrifty, fiddly, and possibly dangerous to try to use. I know somebody's going to tell me that they do it all the time. There's also the hammer type, which I do not trust at all, where you bang the bottle cap onto the bottle. That just sounds like a bad idea waiting to happen. We use, it's a fairly expensive item. It's like $100, but it's a bottle capper that you just 2 fingers pull it down and it bottle caps them. This is basically what we do with repurposed beer bottles. Like, we buy a beer, we keep the bottles, and then we just put bottle caps on them. Works great for carbonated and non-carbonated brews. And a lot of times they're 12 ounces or 16 ounce bottles. So you're getting a smaller serving size and they're shorter. This is important because like even our shelves, we had to set those shelves just exactly right so that a wine bottle will fit in them, whereas most beer bottles will fit on most shelves. So it's a convenience aspect that you can keep it in a smaller serving size so you don't have to worry about oxygenation or drinking the whole thing in one shot, even though depending on what it is, you're probably drinking the whole thing in one shot anyway. But that way you can store it on a shelf and not have to worry so much about space. The only downside is it does take more bottles, more physical bottles, to consume the same amount of volume. Now, don't get me wrong. There are times that having nicer gear is going to be a little bit better. For instance, if you're just using a racking cane and tubing versus an auto siphon, the auto siphon is going to make your life a little bit easier because you can start that siphon a lot more efficiently and consistently without having to use your mouth or have water in the racking cane that you pour out and possibly lose a little bit of brew or, maybe contaminate or maybe dilute the brew. I mean, there's all sorts of things. The auto siphon has none of those problems as long as it's used properly, and that's the trick. Never put it all the way in the bottom. Always start like halfway through. That's my best tip for that. Some other gear that is really cool to have, but not a necessity, is like the tilt hydrometer. I've mentioned this one before. For me, it's a great guide. It just says, hey, this one's coming soon to where you want to check it. That's as much as we really use it for. I don't calibrate them. I don't do anything. I just use it on my iPad. Now, somebody in our VIP just talked about something with this, with the cloud portion of using the tilt, where basically it sounds like there might be some sort of a privacy thing going on there where they have access to your data. I mean, I'm not sure what they can really do with data that they got from your tilt. It doesn't seem like that big of an invasion to me that they found out that your brew fermented out in 3 weeks. I mean, is it something to be aware of? Sure. I don't use that feature, so I can't really speak on it, that intelligently. But other gear to look at if you really want to start leveling up your game is better fermenters, like, ones that are made for it, that have better seals, maybe a silicone liner on the inside, airlocks that have good seals, things like that. Nicer bottles. If you're doing a presentation, like if you're giving these things away, nicer bottles and make your own labels is always a nice touch. And none of these things are super expensive. We've tried the expensive digital hydrometer things and stuff like that that are even more expensive than the tilt. And I was really left disappointed. I was thinking, okay, for $400, this thing should do everything. Nope, it was fiddly, finicky, and really not worth the trouble. Now, if you like to be able to fiddle and, be all hands-on with everything all the time, you might really enjoy that. I didn't. To me, it just seemed like an extra thing that I had to worry about being right or wrong all the time. It was just like, okay, is this the actual reading or not? So I was using a hydrometer anyway, just to find out if the really expensive reading was correct. So sometimes super expensive gear is not all that great. Now, if you're into beer, I will say this right now. There is a huge difference, okay? You can use like the all-in-one things there that you basically dump in grains, put in water, and in a few weeks you have beer. To me, that takes some of the fun out of it. I'd rather do it myself. And the way I make beer, even all grain or brew in a bag, is I put it in a bag, put it in a pot, and this is the same pot that I make pasta in later on that day. And I put that on the stove, bring it up to mash temp, then hold it at that temperature, and then do all the things. And it's all done in this pot that I make pasta in. And then I'll cool it in my tub. I just throw it in the tub and let the cool water go around it. And I make beer with stuff that probably you already have. And then throw that into a plastic bucket that you could have got from Lowe's. Make sure it's food safe. Or from a bakery, just ask for their icing bins. A lot of times they'll just give them to you. All you got to do is just drill a little hole for a grommet and drop an airlock on there, and you got a perfectly good fermenter. So there's so many ways that you can save a couple bucks in brewing, and this is great for those that are, just getting started in it. Do not invest more than you feel comfortable spending on a hobby that you have to be ready that if you hate it, you're going to quit. And don't spend more than you're comfortable losing if that is the case. So if that means $6 for a thing of Welch's and a little bit of bread yeast and some sugar for a sweet red wine, or it means, going a little more all out, getting the hydrometer and the auto siphon and spending $50 to $75. Whichever you're comfortable with, that's the way to start this hobby. And I wholeheartedly stand behind that. Make your first few brews that way. Because also, as you grow and as you use these things, you'll realize what will make your life easier and what gear you need, rather than some guy at a hobby shop or some guy online telling you, you need to buy all this stuff. And before you know it, you have $500 worth of gear that you never use in a hobby that you might have outgrown or walked away from or just decided wasn't worth it for you. Or it's entirely possible you end up spending more and more, and you use every bit of it, and you love the hobby, and you grow into all this super expensive gear. It could go either way, but either way, it's called gas, and it's something to avoid. And as always, guys, thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.